Happy holidays and happy New Year's to all of you in the wide world of whoever and wherever the fuck you're listening to the Duels and Mana Dorks podcast from. This is episode 83 of the Duels and Mana Dorks podcast. I am Connor.
And I am Sam.
And I am Wyatt.
Hey, the honorary Dungeon Bro. Wyatt is with us here for a regular episode. It's a little bit... as far as regular episodes go, it's still weird. It's our year in review, 2024 year in review of D&D and Magic the Gathering and some of the top news stories of the year that we've covered on the podcast. And just a nice little way for us to like work ahead a little bit and chill around this holiday season, frankly. So let's jump right in. January of 2024. The first thing that we got was the Book of Many Things release for D&D. It was a lot of background spells, feats, all that kind of stuff. It included cards and like a new deck of many things and weird stuff. It wasn't really to my taste personally. But the big thing that we were excited for was Ravnica Remastered. It was the new remastered set at the beginning of 2024. All 10 of the guilds are represented, focusing on their color combinations, all of the 2 color pairs, reprint of Cyclonic Rift, reprint of Bruvac, and the fetch lands to start the year off. I think that was our big thing for the month of January. Would you say the same, Sam?
Yeah, I would. And, as far as it goes with Ravnica Remastered, it was a fun reprint set. However, when you look at those reprints, man, they did not bring the heat like in previous reprint sets.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look back at Ravnica, one of the big things, obviously, is all the overload spells with Cyclonic Rift standing head and shoulders above pretty much all the other ones. Mm-hmm. And everyone knows one thing about Ravnica. Hey, it's the shock lands. So, I mean, they could have went harder on the reprints, but, I mean, they kind of hit the high points for what Ravnica is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And
as far as like a limited
cards. They did give us anime art treatment.
Of course. Everybody loves an anime card. That's the reason that Jumpstart is so popular. It's totally not the play pattern or the reprint value or anything like that. It's the anime art, specifically.
Right. .to.io.
God damn it.
Jesus fucking Christ, Wyatt. Rolling in here hot. I love that. But yeah, that's kind of the big thing for the month of January. We started the year rather chill overall. Just a little. We're finishing up the year, or finishing up 2014 D&D. Only a couple more books would come out before the new release of D&D and the classic beginning of the year remastered set. As far as limited play environments go, I thought Ravnica was pretty fun when we were still doing Monday Night Magics. So that was very good. We'll move on now to February. Nothing really happened for D&D. We got a little bit of an announcement of a partnership with Wizards of the Coast and Resolution Games to bring D&D to virtual reality. And there was a rumor that WotC was going to be selling D&D. They ended up not doing that. But for Magic the Gathering, we had Murders at Karlov Manor, released on my birthday, February 9th, 2024. Very exciting. Not a very exciting set in terms of storyline or play patterns. It was another return to Ravnica, 2 Ravnica sets back-to-back, and focusing on a murder mystery of who killed Teysa Karlov, except she kind of didn't really die, but also kind of did. We got some face-down creatures with disguise. Suspect was a brand new mechanic. Investigate, making clues. Cases. We got a new enchantment subtype. We had the introduction of probably the most valuable thing to come out of it, which was the Surveil lands, tapped lands that enter the battlefield, have basic land types, so they're fetchable, and then cause a Surveil 1 trigger. 4 commander decks that, despite the fact that I had the Deadly Disguise one and revamped that into a Gruul Disguise deck with Yaris, which also came from this set, I love that deck. The set kind of sucked in a lot of ways, and not just in play pattern, but also in theme, and I don't know. It was very disappointing. Wyatt, we'll go to you here. What do you make of Murders at Karlov Manor?
I personally actually really liked a lot of the cards that came out of it, simply because we got a couple of really interesting finishers with, I believe it is Inquisitive or Inspector Gorgons, the one where basically every time you sacrifice an artifact, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. So that's a finisher. Anzrag, obviously, always cool to see these big Gruul or big creatures come out of Ravnica because they always do really good with that. I liked a lot of the face down mechanic stuff because, much like you, I also have a morph deck, but it cares about things being face down, so that worked out there. There was also a card that let you play cards at the beginning of your upkeep. You could return a land from the graveyard to the battlefield. We got just like a sprinkle of some unique cards, and I just feel like even though the set was kind of tilted towards a lot of people disliking it because of the Clue tie-in and everything, I think there was, a lot of hidden gems in it that people tend to forget about when they go back on the set.
Sam?
Yeah, the set overall, it was definitely a flavor fail, and I think that's what we saw a lot of this year was flavor fails, and not necessarily like the concept overall, like a murder mystery, or as we go forward, like a Wild West set. Those are kind of cool ideas. However, with Karlov Manor, Murders at Karlov Manor, it was just kind of like, hey, what if everything was a detective? Like, what if an elephant was a detective? What if we had Scooby-Doo? As far as mechanics go, I was really, cases are neat. I'm excited. I would actually be excited to see other cases in the future because, at least in a limited environment, which is where they mostly would appear, they were a neat little play to, If I do something specific on my turn that I might not otherwise focus on, I can get a pretty okay benefit. But I think the big fail was clues. 2023 was so great in the food category.
Oh, yeah.
And 2020 everything was great in the treasure category. So we have treasures, we have food, and now we're supposed to have some cool clues, and it's like, all right, we got some clues that were also equipment. And that was kind of it.
Yeah.
Now, we did get the best Simic Merfolk commander that's centered around clues in the Deep Clue Sea precon. But yeah, clues highly underutilized for sure. Nothing that really even something as simple as some cards that synergize with clues being sacrificed or reduce the cost to sacrifice a clue and to activate its ability. I mean, it was a bit of a letdown. I like my face down commander deck a lot. I think it's very fun, very synergistic, very different than a lot of other commander decks, which is what it's kind of what I enjoy about it. So I like the disguise. I like having ward on my face down creatures. But the reason I like that deck is because I'm not paying the disguise costs to flip them. The whole reason I like that deck is because Yaris is getting you to flip them over when they die for free. So it's...
Right. No one wants to pay full price to flip anything over.
Exactly. So even then, the face down mechanic itself, in a vacuum, is fine. But the other big thing, we had some controversy with this set because of our first round of plagiarism for the year. 2024, first round of plagiarism. We got all the way till February. Congratulations. Trouble in Pairs was just... The background and the characters were straight up ripped off from another artist online and just modified slightly for the card in the... I believe it was in... Oh, I think it was in Deadly Disguises, wasn't it? Trouble in Pairs? Or no. It was in Blame Game, the Goading and Suspect one. But
the Boros one.
Yes. But yeah, our first round of plagiarism for the year. We get to the end of February, we get the Ravnica Clue Edition, which is just the Clue board game with some Jumpstart style Clue packs, kind of, and some magic cards for the characters from Clue. You can play as Colonel Mustard if you so desire. And then the major thing is that each Clue box came with a guaranteed shock land in it. So unless you were a big Clue fan and also a big Magic fan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know those
I
Clue
don't-
heads out there go crazy for some Magic tie-ins.
Oh yeah, I mean everyone that's into Clue is a huge Magic fan, as we all know. Yeah. All right, we'll move on to March. The biggest thing to happen in March. No, it is not the Daggerheart open beta beginning. No. It is not the release of a new Magic the Gathering set with the Fallout Commander decks and the collector boosters and all that kind of stuff. No. It is the fact that the Dungeon Bros podcast, later to be renamed the Duels of Mana Dorks podcast, releases their first video podcast, which is very exciting. Yeah, it took us until this year. I didn't realize that. I feel like we've been doing the video version for fucking ever by now. It feels like it's been way longer. But yeah, every episode of the podcast now recorded in video form. But yeah, we also got the Daggerheart open beta. We got details on that. It was a new TTRPG system around a 2d12 combat and dice-based system as opposed to a d20 system. I think that is the most interesting part of Daggerheart is the hope, fear, dice combination compared to the d20. Have either of you dived into a bit of Daggerheart, Wyatt?
No. I have not.
Not at all. Sam, we were going to do a little Daggerheart one shot, but it kind of fell through.
Yeah, everybody died on the day we were supposed to do it, so...
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
everyone got in the same plane, and the plane crashed. So
Yeah, that's like standard, just, typical Dungeons and Dragons stuff, You plan for the session, and then the day comes, and everyone's got stuff going on.
yeah, it's a classic conundrum. Daggerheart though has since taken the world by storm in many ways. It's very, very popular. But for our purposes, the Fallout Commander decks released on March 8th, which was 4 Commander decks, a Naya Voltron deck in Scrappy Survivors, the Jeskai Energy deck in Science, Mardu tokens with Hail, Kaisar, and the Sultai Rad counters with the Mutant Menace. Mutant Menace, the what is it? The Wise Mothman.
Wise Mothman.
That is also the most popular commander of 2024, according to EDH Rec. I found that out the other day. So a lot of good stuff to come out of Fallout, a lot of thematic cards. And incidentally, it did kind of like the Clue treasure thing a little bit better with the bobbleheads that were in all of the decks. And they also had collector booster packs. No regular booster packs to be found, which is why we are not including it for our 2024 Chaos Limited pool that we're going to be doing here very soon. But yeah, the Fallout Commander decks, people were very, very high on them, I would say, as far as Commander Precons go. Particularly the Sultai Rad counters and Hail Kaisar, the Mardu tokens. Sam, you're much more of a Fallout guy than I've been, for sure. What do you make of the Fallout Commander decks?
I was really impressed with the Fallout Commander decks, especially coming after the Doctor Who Commander decks last year. Those were real disappointing. They were very flavorful, but you look at most of the cards in them and you're like, this will never find a home in anything I do. But with the amount of work they put into the Fallout Commander decks, one of my regular podmates has the Scrappy Survivors, and it is a very scary deck. It can go very quickly. Honestly, looking at the cards, it harkens me back to the Warhammer 40k decks that they put out several years ago now. I was a big fan of these.
What?
I just loved Fallout. I mean, I've never played any of the Fallout games, but I loved the card design, and I loved looking it up and being like, oh, this card's interesting, and then finding out the lore behind it and being like, hey, that's really cool. That's a good flavor tie-in. And a lot of the cards, as long as they weren't like the big draws of the whole deck, have been budget friendly, so that's also been a huge help in brewing budget decks. So
Yeah,
I have nothing bad to say about this set. No Fallout from the Fallout.
No Fallout. Yeah, that's a big one. So I've just been looking up secret lair drops. And we could get into the details of the secret lair drops that have released throughout the year, but I don't think that's really worth anyone's time, quite frankly.
So many.
You just want to hit the number real quick. How many there are?
57.
Guess first.
50. Oh, sorry.
Ooh.
Spoiler alert.
I think there are
there's-
57 secret layers that have been dropped.
Sam, you're dead on. That's great. There were 57 individual secret layer drops, not including foil versus non-foil, released in 2024. For those of you that are a little less adept at math, that's more than one per week on average. And probably about 4 or 5 of them were really worth buying.
Oh man, they have really started to like just run wild with the value of secret layers. I feel where they're like, look, we'll get really, really, really good art for this 5-cent card, and people are gonna go nuts for it, and we don't even have to give them good cards anymore.
And that's the craziest. Like, we could get into the rabbit hole of secret layers. I think we'll just do a little sidebar here. We're done with we're almost done with quarter 1 of 2024. A quarter 1 break. We're talking about secret layers. The only one now I managed to get my hands on the Monty Python and the Holy Grail secret layer, foil and non-foil. Those cards are sick. I love them.
Great one. Yeah.
I wouldn't have necessarily recommended it to anyone, and frankly, if you look at it, like, realistically speaking, most all of the secret layers are monetarily worth it, just because their cards are so limited supply that the specific secret layer art versions of those cards go for way more than what the cards would be, even in their, oftentimes even more than their most valuable version before that art printing. So technically, yes, all the secret layers are worth it. But if you're buying a secret layer and you're getting shit cards with art that you don't really like, it's gonna not resell very easily, even if that's what you're trying to do with it. I think the only one that really is was in hindsight objectively worth it was the Marvel secret layer drop, just because of unique design commanders.
I'm not even gonna count that one because they did that limited run of that, and they knew they were like, we're gonna sell out in an hour tops. It's gonna be gone.
It was sold out, I believe,
no
in minutes.
safeguards for scalpers or anything else, and they really it left a very bad taste in my mouth as far as things.
Well, if we want to talk about that, it wasn't sold out in minutes. They crashed the website in minutes for the Marvel Secret Layers, which is later on in the document. But not only that, Secret Layers have been riddled with misprints this year, whether it's spelling errors or in the one case there was a counterspell that could only be cast at sorcery speed. Let alone the fact that, like, the 20 Ways to Win secret layer that was most recently, one of the most recent ones at the time of recording, it got sent out wrong.
Yeah, just
like,
straight up
people
wrong.
were getting it days after it was printed or the sale one happened, but they were getting, some decks that were only 60 cards instead of 100 with 10 copies of the commander.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Secret Layers have been a fucking disaster. Sidebar concluded. Buyer beware. Moving out of the month of March, good God, we go to April, where we get a very exciting announcement from former president of Wizards of the Coast, Cynthia Wilshiruin-Watsy, aka Cynthia Williams, announced that she was going to be resigning right before the quarter 1 meeting for Wizards of the Coast. So nothing to fear there.
Yeah.
At all. They also announced a collab with Lego, and announced that they were going to be investing $1 billion into their video game department and video game acquisition and licensing. So, all very good, normal business operating behavior for sure. But for Magic the Gathering, for D&D, there was nothing. Yet again, we were in the lead up to the 2024 revision. We knew we were going to be eaten from crumbs for D&D this year. But for Magic the Gathering, we have Outlaws of Thunder Junction, the 100th Magic the Gathering core expansion. big milestone for the brand. We got hit with some wonderful new mechanics in plot, saddle, and spree, as well as committing crimes. Saddle, a variation of the crew mechanic. Plot, a variation of the foretell mechanic, in many ways an improvement on the foretell mechanic, I might add. Spree, an interesting way to do modal cards, and then committing crimes, something that we've been doing all along in Magic and never knew. I guess we're all villains in some way.
Yeah.
We got 4 new commander decks with a Naya Desert's Matter deck, the Is It Spellslinger copy deck, a Mardu Treasure and Outlaws deck, and then a Sultai Spell Stealing deck, as long as the new game mode of Bounties, which is a commander variant, and 2 amazing bonus sheets with the Big Score and Breaking News art bonus sheets. Obviously, the big hit, as Sam has noted here in our document. Thank you, Sam, by the way, for putting together our document. Wonderful job. The big hit was Bristly Bill, which wasn't available in the core sets at all. You had to, I believe you had to get where was Bristly Bill? Was it only in collector boosters? Because it has the regular set symbol, but you can't get it in play boosters. Shoot.
Interesting.
I
Did
think
not realize that.
Oh. All right, Sam, you talk about Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I'm going to look up at
I will talk about
Bristly
Outlaws
Bill.
of Thunder Junction. I was actually surprised that we didn't hear more that it was the 100th Magic expansion. I didn't even know that until I went and looked it up on the wiki. I know this set had a lot of fails for a lot of people. I really liked the cowboy theme, the Wild West theme. But I do admit that they probably... This could have been a block, Like, if we're going back to when they were doing blocks, this could have been really cool because it was talking about, literally, there was nothing on this plane until people came to it because they sensed magic, until former planeswalkers or planeswalkers came. And then they're like, but here's just all of the villains. Here's all of the villains that you know. And it's like, okay, if you had given me 3 sets based on Thunder Junction, one where it's discovered and they show all of these, new plant people popping up, and they show all of these different, people coming through the omen paths little by little, and then you gave me like a whole set where suddenly there's now a town and they're starting to see crime pop up, and okay, you see like the core, like Oko and gang. And then for the third one, you're like, okay, now they're sending out recruitments to villains across the multiverse. That would have been cool. But yeah, a lot of people didn't like it from just suddenly there are a bunch of villains, and I know a lot of people also had issue with a lot of the puns they did in it.
Oh,
as far as the gameplay goes, I know Limited was a little broken because of the 2 bonus sheets, one of which was supposed to be an Aftermath style set, that they had to quickly just shove into the main set. So, I don't know, Wyatt, what do you think?
I'm a huge fan of Thunder Junction, flavor-wise, because I grew up watching a lot of really old-school westerns with my dad, so I was super hyped for Cowboys. I didn't really have the whatever it was that people had about seeing, like, actual guns or the other things that complaints people had about Thunder Junction. I was like, it would have come up at some point. So that was just whatever, but I loved a lot of the cards from it. Like you said, the bonus sheet was really cool. The art style on those cards, phenomenal. I also am someone who makes a lot of puns, so I didn't really see anything wrong with, Holy Cow and
Best card ever.
I think it was like a Roadrunner and the
Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, the Wile E. Coyote. Love that. So yeah, there was just... I agree with you 100% though about their going back to blocks. I miss blocks so much because I felt like you got to live in the plane for a little while instead of just constantly, we're just jumping. It's like, look at this, this is cool, look at this. And it's like you don't get to stay in it. even if a set landed really, really well with people, we don't get to spend enough time in it because they're already, like, as soon as the set's released, here's the preview for the next set. Like, we're already in spoiler season for the next set. So
Yeah.
as by the time you're releasing this with, hype around it, you're already starting to build hype for the next set that's coming after it. And I feel like a lot of cards kind of just get lost in the wayside by doing that. Like, a lot of the cards that really could have stood out and been like bangers just kind of get swept away. And especially for a new plane like that, they could have had almost a reverse Gatewatch type deal where Oko goes around and is like, I'm putting a gang together.
Oh,
You son of a bitch, I'm in. Like
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah, just something like that, and then that would explain why the Oko gang is on Thunder Junction, and then you could have also had it put out to where they're releasing flyers or whatever into the multiverse asking for help because they're having a crime spree on this plane, and then you could bring in, like, the heroes from different realms, and, like, they have to kind of come together and put aside their differences and stuff. It's a very, very Western trope where...
Yeah.
You bring a posse together to round up the bad guys that are already working together, and now you got to deal with, I'm the knife specialist, I throw knives, and, I'm the sharpshooter, I shoot from really far away, and, you bring them all together and let their personalities kind of just do the rest, and then you have the conclusion where, it's the showdown at noon.
Okay, I must be just fucking having a brain aneurysm about the Bristly Bill thing, so... We'll see. I thought Outlaws was really cool. I think the spree mechanic was the standout mechanic in a lot of ways. Committing crimes, just kind of whatever. The theme, I'm not a huge Western guy. It's not my thing. I thought there were much higher card quality for this set as compared to the previous main set of the year with Murders of Karlov Manor. Just the card quality was way higher. The useful cards, the staple cards for a lot of deck styles with like the Slick Shot Show Off. I think that was what it's called.
Powerhouse.
So powerful. And then just having good bonus sheets is top notch. We then move out of the first quarter of the year. We get to May of 2024, arguably the thinnest month of the year. We get the last D&D book in terms of like a core adventure with the Vecna Eve of Ruin. It was a level 10 to 20 plane jumping adventure to track down and reassemble the Rod of 7 parts and take down Vecna and stop him from conquering the multiverse. Kind of a send-off for 2014's Dungeons & Dragons. You jumped to a lot of planes. You saw a lot of very familiar characters, which was very cool. That's also when we started to get the 1D&D fireside chats and got more details about the 2024 revision for Dungeons & Dragons. We got a lot of very negative information about the like financial side of Wizards of the Coast, about how digital gaming was up, and then like everything else was on the downward trend, which was pretty concerning. They were also asking artists to refrain from using generative AI. AI started to become a big talking point. We got the release of Destroy All Humans, They Cannot Be Regenerated, a Japanese manga around Magic the Gathering that was released in English for the very first time. And then the big banned and restricted announcement that all Eternal formats were going to ban sticker and attraction generating cards. Thank God.
Such a devastating blow.
We hardly knew ye, quite frankly. May, pretty chill month, all things considered. Do you have anything you want to say about Vecna Eve of Ruin or any of the other random little things that started happening, Sam?
I think that the most important thing to talk about in May is that the investor meeting results, because again, it showed why Cynthia Williams stepped down.
Absolutely.
And as we'll see later, it kind of foreshadowed some later controversy and a later lawsuit that came to Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. And man, we've been saying for a long time that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro needs to really get their heads out of their asses when it comes to their financials and how they do business. And hopefully we're going to see that improve as we go into 2024.
Why?
One can only hope.
One can only hope.
May is important to me because it's my birthday.
Hey.
So that was, for me, that was the biggest thing that happened in May.
Ah, you got old.
That's why there
Yeah.
was nothing going on. They needed to make room for
Yeah, they
Wyatt to
just had
celebrate.
Yeah, just had to clear it
Right.
out.
Shine the spotlight.
But as far as the Vecna thing goes, I just start to ponder if maybe they were kind of leaning on that ending of Stranger Things, with like, I feel like D&D and Stranger Things have just become even more like intertwined. I know
Synonymous.
they're really kind of like synergizing with each other. They're like, D&D saw a big boost from Stranger Things, and it's just one of those things where, was Vecna really going to be in the spotlight this year or last year to kind of cap things off if it wasn't for Stranger Things bringing up Vecna?
Maybe.
Who knows?
Now, the one good thing about Vecna Eve of Ruin, it was tying together like all the adventures since 2020 or 2014's D&D 5th edition. I hate that they didn't just call it 5.5. But like the various adventures, there were like obelisks and like these things that you could interact with, and like sometimes something could happen, but they were never connected to the adventure books that they were being presented in. And then these were the locations that you were returning to in Vecna Eve of Ruin to kind of tie everything together. If you were the kind of D&D group where you run through and you play like each campaign book that comes out, like that was a beautiful arc to kind of like tie all of that up. Whether or not that was originally their plan was to have Vecna be the one, I don't know. But at the same time, I feel like Vecna is probably like the only character really that could tie all of that stuff together in a kind of multiversal conflict in a way,
Right.
But it's
I
also
love
very
Vecna.
convenient.
I got nothing against Vecna.
Vecna's cool. It's also very convenient that he became a thing in Stranger Things. So we then moved
Critical Role
to
campaign 1.
Yeah.
he was the villain there too. So
he was the guy. He is the guy in a lot of ways. So we'll move on to the summer, June 2024. Nothing exciting in the world of D&D really, but the big modern rotation set, if you will. Modern Horizons 3, June 14th. We got the return of colorless Eldrazi, double-faced cards, and energy. Got some very expensive hits that you could get with Tameo, the Flip Walker. We got several Flip Walkers there. The Ocelot Pride, which was a shocking powerful 1 white mana drop. And then Ulamog. And my favorite card, most memorable card from Modern Horizons 3, Ulalek. Yes, the Eldrazi. The 5-color plus colorless Eldrazi commander deck commander. We also got the Graveyard Overdrive, which was Jund Lurgoyfs, an homage to Tarmogoyf of years past. The Tricky Terrain, which was the Simic non-basic lands deck, and then the Creative Energy, which was the Jeskai energy deck, gave a lot of good upgrades to that Fallout energy deck that we got. Modern Horizons 3, super powerful. Created a lot of format staples
putting it
for
mildly.
anything that it is legal in. Vexing Bauble just completely fucked up the legacy and vintage realm for a while. We got a ton of value pieces in the double-sided lands cards for Commander, specifically having a card you can cast on one side and then a land on the back side that can enter untapped or tapped if it's one of the dual land ones. Just a ton of value in Modern Horizons 3. Wyatt, what was that deck you just pulled up?
That was Creative Energy.
Oh, yeah. Is that just straight up Creative Energy, or did you upgrade it a little bit?
I haven't touched this one. I figured I'd try to keep it as pre-con as I could.
Yeah.
So this one is just out the box creative energy.
Yeah, the 4 precons we got were fairly well received in terms of play patterns. Not really beginner friendly precons. With the one that was kind of like the lesser ended up being the Jund Lurgoyf's one, which I wouldn't have necessarily anticipated. It just kind of struggled with being able to fill the graveyard with all of the card types you would want to get your Tarmogoyf tokens to be actually like usable in a lot of ways. Modern Horizons 3, big power spike. Samuel, what was your vibe on MH3?
I mean, MH3 it has so many cool cards, and I don't play Modern. We don't play Modern a lot, ever. But I will say they're great in Commander. A lot of build-around cards. I do have one issue, which is I've been trying to get into Standard recently, and every time I think of a cool card to go in a deck, it came from Modern Horizons 3, and I can't use it.
Yep. We'll get into the effort to revitalize Standard here in the later months of 2024. Yeah, that also drives me nuts. A lot of people don't like the Modern Horizons set because it turned Modern from a format that was just all the best Standard cards from 8th edition onward to a Modern Horizons rotation set. So they just wait for the next Modern Horizons set for the cards to change. I don't know. These direct to Modern sets, I feel like it just kind of changes entirely what Modern was supposed to be. I like having powerful cards, don't get me wrong. Loved all those double-sided cards. Like I'm a huge fan of spells that are lands on the backside. I think that is super amazing. And for like 95% of Commander decks, pulling out a basic land and putting one of those in is just going to make it a little bit better. Just straight up.
Oh yeah. Always.
Any final thoughts for the Modern Horizons 3, gentlemen?
I mean, we knew Modern Horizons, as soon as it said Modern Horizons, we knew there was going to be power packed in it. Like you said, a lot of people get frustrated with the Modern format because it just rotates into whatever is the most recent thing that came out in Modern Horizons. Huge year for Energy, though. I will say that. Energy was really having its resurgence this year.
And with the bans that we just recently got as of the recording of this, now is just free to run rampant across Modern. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
And actually it has been for a while at this point, honestly.
Yep, just continue its reign of terror.
Absolutely.
But I did enjoy a lot of the cards from it. I think Commander players, people that aren't really tapped into the Modern scene, it's always just good to get powerful cards.
Absolutely.
You know, you love to see it.
I apologize. We forgot the biggest thing to come out of Modern Horizons 3, which was the start of what will forever be known as the hot Nadu summer. Nadu Winged Wisdom, the literal actual mistake of a card design, printed directly into Modern and immediately took over not only Modern, took over CEDH, took over ED, any format that card was legal in, which is now very few. The entire summer. Wings up. Wings up. I was working on a CEDH deck for Nadu, and then I had to very sadly put it away. But
oh yeah, well,
it
rest
is what
in
it
piss,
is.
Nadu. I choose not to remember you.
Hot Nadu summer. It was a cool time. It was quite the time. Moving deeper into the hot Nadu
we were
summer.
so young then.
We were so young. We get to July. July, in terms of Magic, was a little bit soft. We had the Assassin's Creed Universes Beyond. It was a mini set of the Beyond booster, which was a 7-card booster pack. No pre-constructed decks, no regular size draftable packs of any kind. Just a little mini set for Assassin's Creed. We had the Assassins as an important archetype, as well as the free running mechanic, which was just kind of a way to free cast things with Assassins or your commander. we got a Sword of Feast and Famine reprint, Excalibur, Sword of Eden, Edward Kenway. Interesting cards. Some is built around things not at all worth buying at all in the slightest, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Sam,
I know some people were really tapped in with Assassin's Creed. I just was not one of them.
Samuel is the Assassin's Creed fan amongst the three of us.
Yeah, I this was one that when they announced that they were doing Assassin's Creed, I was so ready. But of course, they fumbled the ball, if you will, football reference. But yeah, they tried to, because they, back in 2023, man, they were getting ready for that Aftermath set, and they thought they had something there. They didn't. And they just couldn't fix the Assassin's Creed thing in time. This would have been a great set for Commander decks and a bunch of other... I mean, they had some really cool reprints, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, they gave us one of the best pirate commanders that has come out in Edward Kenway, focusing on pirates, treasure, and vehicles. But other than that, yeah, some of the cards that they reprinted were cool, but niche.
I can't believe they weren't able to pivot this set to just be like, here's 4 commander decks.
That would have been great.
That would have been fantastic. Make it like Fallout. Just here's 4 commander decks. You could do collector boosters with it. And nobody would have batted a fucking eye. You look at Edward Kenway. That could have been one of the commanders. You could have had Ezio Auditore as like a 5-color commander with the free running stuff. Like it could have.
Yeah, very easily could have been something. I just think there was someone up at Wizards that was just like, guys, come on, look, I'm telling you, people love Assassin's Creed, all right? Just put it out as a set. People love Assassin's Creed. They will buy it, I promise.
And that would have been very true. That would have been very true about 6 to 8 years ago, I think. A lot of the goodwill for Assassin's Creed has since gone away. But the other big thing for July, our friend Ivy over at the Crit Awards, they were very excited to ramp up for their 2nd annual Crit Awards at Gen Con. They put out as a company a post defending the sanctity of Palestinians in the Israeli and Palestine conflict. As such, they were, of course, met with backlash because of the internet, and obviously. Gen Con had received death threats and threats of violence against the Crit Awards if they were to continue to attend, and they amicably came to the conclusion that they would not have it at Gen Con and instead would have it as a live stream. So it was very sad. We were Sam and I were very excited to go to Gen Con and go to the Crit Awards, which for those of you that don't know, Crit Awards, the Creator Recognition and Tabletop RPG Awards show. It was the first annual in 2023. Where we were at Gen Con, we didn't end up going. Our friend the bearded DM, he went and he was convincing us to go. And he was like, "That was the first we've ever heard of it, and we have plans tonight already. Sorry." But it actually is a very cool organization, and we have said on several podcasts, it's like, maybe organizations don't need to be taking hard political stances. Quite frankly, the whole reason they made the stance originally was because one of the creators that was nominated was a pro-Israel stance in the Israel-Palestine conflict, and the company wanted to not associate with that, as they chose not to. Whether or not that was smart, you can have your political beliefs, don't really care, but we weren't able to witness the Crit Awards. I feel like if they are going to do it again this year, no one's going to really even remember that this was a thing, and it will go off without a hitch. And I hope it does, because Ivy and all the people there are very, very cool.
Yeah.
Moving to August.
Ooh, one more thing. Did we talk about Quest from the Infinite Staircase?
Was
that was July 30th.
Oh my gosh, that was.
July 30th?
Yes, Quest from the Infinite Staircase, July 30th. The final release for 2014's Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It was the yearly compendium release. It included 6 revamped earlier edition adventures. And then, the compendium books, I think, are some of the best value you can get in terms of D&D campaign books. Quest from the Infinite Staircase was very well received, kind of a multiversal thing. You can pull the individual adventures for your campaigns. Yeah, Sam and I are huge fans of the compendium books, generally speaking. Do you guys have anything you want to say about Quest from the Infinite Staircase? All right, moving on. Moving on to August. The big thing for August, Hasbro hired a new president for Wizards of the Coast and the digital gaming division in John Haidt. He was of video game fame for many, many years prior to being the president of Wizards of the Coast. We have yet to really see how he has modified things, though I can say, just generally speaking, the vibes and the changes that Wizards of the Coast has been making to D&D, Magic the Gathering, the how they've been handling, it just seems like things have calmed down in terms of controversy, and things are tending to move in the directions that the players of these games would want them to, which, whether or not that has to do with John or has to do with how the structure has changed since Cynthia Will She Ruin Watsy has left, but we will see. Magic the Gathering had a big rules change. The pre- and post-combat main phases were then changed to the numbering of the phases, as well as the Gen Con. We had Gen Con happen. The release of Mystery Boosters 2 was both announced and dropped at Gen Con, which was very exciting. We also had the big set for August at the very beginning. We had Bloomborough. This is my favorite set of the year. Bloomborough introduced us to the Offspring mechanic, the Gift mechanic, and the Valiant, Expend, and Forge mechanic, as well as the return of the Threshold mechanic. We had some big hits in Bria Riptide Rogue from the starter decks, Innkeeper's Talent, Tree City, Maha. There were some very, very powerful cards. We had a couple of bonus sheets, which were just a couple of planeswalkers and legends that were reimagined as Bloomborough-style critters. 4 commander decks with Gruul enchantments in the animated army, Jeskai Offspring with Family Matters, which was an interesting one. I think that was by far the worst one of the 4. Bant Group Hug, Peace Offering, the first ever Group Hug style commander precon, and Squirreled Away, which was the Golgari Squirrels deck. Bloomborough, I fucking love to death. Maybe it's because I really like prowess, and there were a lot of little prowessy otters running around. I'm a huge fan of that. I think Offspring was a very interesting mechanic of paying 2 mana to get a token copy of the card that you are casting. Valiant is a new take on... oh my god. Heroic. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you. Gift being another way to improve the effects of a card, a.k.a. another way to do kicker. Expend, you're always doing. Foraging, a way to get rid of things. We love Threshold. Sam, what's your take on Bloomborough?
I really enjoy Bloomborough for several reasons. Honestly, all of these mechanics that they introduced, which was quite a few, were great. Gift was probably one that's been the most, to most people. So-so to most people, because you're giving your opponents something, but that works perfectly fine in Commander. Other than that, it was also a huge story win and flavor win, because this is kind of the first set in a long time where they've told a story worth telling, and it was fully in the Magic the Gathering universe. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of is the idea that a lot of people have been poking at, and as to why they don't like Universes Beyond is well, Magic has its own IP, and that's kind of, I think, internet. I don't hate Universes Beyond, but I want to be able to love the Magic the Gathering IP the same way I might love those, Assassin's Creed or Fallout or whatever. But if you don't give me anything to work with, I can't do that,
Yeah. And don't worry, in the next month of September, we'll be getting into some Universes Beyond stuff. They made a lot of interesting announcements. Wyatt, I know that you are more of a Duskmorn guy than Bloomborough, but what was your take on Bloomborough?
Hey, Bloomborough was still a 10 out of 10 for me. It really brought back a lot of nostalgic feelings of a traditional Magic set. Like, we're introduced to a world. The denizens of it are very unique. The mechanics, some of them are returning. We saw some new ones. That's, like, as far as a Magic the Gathering set goes, beautiful. The only thing I wish is we could have stayed in it longer.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, going back to the blocks, we could have. I think that's probably the biggest thing shooting Wizards in the foot right now. Is they just don't want to do blocks anymore, and I feel that that's one of the ways to really let people get into a plane, let it breathe, live in it for a little while, and then that way, when you go to the next one, people are like, okay, well, it was nice staying in Bloomborough, but we've had 3 blocks or 2 blocks even. Now it's time to, move on to the next plane. So that would be my only critique, is I wish I had more Bloomborough.
Yes, absolutely. The last important thing in the month of August was, of course, Gen Con 2024, the big convention for Magic and D&D. Sam and I had the good fortune of going to that. I was able to go to the D&D 2024 press event, where we got an early copy of the Dungeons & Dragons 2024 revision Player's Handbook. Got to talk to a lot of the designers for the book. Got to hear a lot of what they had planned for the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual, for the tabletop, the virtual tabletop that they were working on. A lot of really cool stuff. Gen Con, of course, a wonderful time, as it always is. Wyatt, you need to come with us to Gen Con, Mr. Wyatt, sir.
I want to, but 2
Come
kids doesn't allow for a lot of time to, just be like, all right, all right, honey, have fun with the 2 kids. I'm going to Gen Con.
Okay, fine. You have a new baby. We get it. You're a dad. You're a loving father who provides for his family. Okay, like, be a bad boy.
Women love a bad boy.
I have plans. If anything's remotely close, I'm talking like within like an hour or 2 drive, something I could make in a day, I might look at doing that. That way I can at least go to that.
We'll see if there's an SCG con going on in the Tennessee area. You never know. Moving on now.
I'm really hoping for a Command Fest.
Ooh,
Come on,
Fest
Command Fest.
Command Fest Nashville, let's go.
Yeah, please. Command Fest Memphis, we can have it in the pyramid.
I'm not going to lie, that would actually be pretty badass. I'd be really into that. Nashville, Memphis, like, Tennessee's got a lot of cool shit going on. Now, moving on to the month of September. We're going to start off with the big daddy of September. And no, Wyatt, it is not Duskmourn House of Horror. It is the new revision to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the official release of the 2024 Player's Handbook on September 3rd. A chonky boy. Lots of changes to the rules, but in some ways, improvements to the rules. We had seen all of the 1D&D playtests for about 2 years up to that point. We had been getting drops of information. The fireside chats had started, and then people were able to get the books in their hands, and they realized, oh, this is just 5th edition again, but a little bit better in a lot of ways. And in some ways, not quite as good. Not what they would like. But generally, the reception was positive, I think. The Player's Handbook, way more information, way more value, I would say, than the 2014 Player's Handbook. Both in book quality. I think the book itself is beautiful. The cardstock's better. The covers are better. The art, much more art, more vibrant art. And then the content of the game as well. Improvements in items, in subclasses, in classes, structure of the book, how it's laid out, the information provided in it. Good way to start off this new era of 5th edition, I would say, Sam.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I mean, looking at the 2014 edition, it still kind of felt, in many ways, like it was just a bunch of dudes in their basement putting together a set of books and then selling them. Mm-hmm. As opposed, now looking at this 2024 edition, how they did the art direction in collaboration with the content direction, how much effort and time they put into testing everything, through play testing internally and through the community. There's, I have currently no plans to start any sort of D&D campaign anytime soon. And if I were going to, we talked about for a long time, if it's not good, if you don't want to spend the money, if you don't like it, you don't have to play. There's so much 5e content, you'll never have to play the 2024 revision of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. But now that it's out, I'm excited to see what it feels like to actually play with this edition.
Absolutely. Wyatt?
I did not get to touch Dungeons & Dragons in 2024, unfortunately. Not for a lack of trying. My play group that I played with before just kept meeting on a day that I just couldn't make it. So, But I did keep up with everything. I read everything. Very excited when I do get an opportunity to play. Very much looking forward to that. I really wanted to get my hands on a Warlock because that's my favorite class, and just kind of like test and see where I kind of take things with that. But like you guys said, if it's not your jam to try something new, you can always stick with 5th edition. A lot of good stuff there too.
Oh yeah. I'm excited to get into that Ranger. Much better Ranger than in 2014. 2024 revision of the Ranger is chef's kiss. I love it. The rest of September, though. Rest of September, not quite as we'll get into this. There was another controversy with Wizards of the Coast in the lead up to the release of the Player's Handbook. I know, right? Shocking. Planning to delete the entirety of 2014's 5th edition off of D&D Beyond. And if you wanted to, in their words, if you wanted to play with the older version of D&D, you would have to use homebrew versions of the rules and systems, as they would be moving over the core to the new 5th edition. Quite frankly, I think ultimately nothing really changed after this controversy. They just were more clear on what they were intending to do, and then instead of like having them in the homebrew tab for the old rules, they just made it a legacy version. That's separate from homebrew, which is kind of what they were doing all the time. It was just going to be in the homebrew tab instead. They just want to make sure that everyone's playing with the same version of things and that it was clear and different from the 2014 version, so people weren't playing with two different versions of D&D at the same table. A very minor controversy. We got
nothing they couldn't get over.
Exactly. Yeah, well, they'll get over it, that's for sure. Then we get to the bans. The big ban. The big daddy of all bans. One of the biggest banned and restricted announcements in Magic the Gathering's history, I would argue. For one, it was the end of Hot Nadu Summer. We hardly knew ye. Banned in Modern. Banned in Commander. Straight up. But then we also got hit with the big Commander bans of Dockside Extortionist, Mana Crypt, and Jeweled Lotus. 3 high-value, very powerful cards in EDH, banned outright from the format. Jeweled Lotus, even, a card specifically designed for, basically only legal in, and basically only useful in Commander. One that they used to sell the Commander Masters set from 2023. Banned outright. Dockside, we had been given plenty of leeway on. It had been talked about many times over by the Commander Rules Committee as something that they were looking at. But Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus kind of came out of nowhere. And who boy were people upset. Upset at the value that was being lost in their collections. There was the first of then 2 attempts to create a competitive EDH rules committee separate from the regular EDH rules committee in between episodes of the podcast. Like, this was all rolling real quick, and ultimately those attempts were failures, and we now have a new CEDH thing that's kind of happening but kind of not really happening. People have already sort of moved on by the month of December, but The big bans, Nadu, Dockside Extortionist, Mana Crypt, and Jeweled Lotus. Why it seems like you have many emotions.
Well, I mean, they had just put Mana Crypt in Lost Caverns and had that really cool art for it and everything. The Jeweled Lotus caught a stray, I feel, really bad, like, just in general. Dockside, I gotta be honest, a lot more people should have seen that one coming.
Absolutely.
They had been talking about it forever, that it was something they were always looking at, and if it ever became problematic, like it was becoming, they were going to ban it, So I just find it humorous that way back in the first Commander Masters they released, where they had all those hits, Hull Breacher, Dockside, Jeweled Lotus, all those, and now like the top selling % of that set is all banned.
Yeah.
Hull Breacher, Jeweled Lotus, Dockside, gone.
Yeah. It's tough.
And I think there were a lot of attempts at first to kind of make CEDH be its own thing because people were just so scared of change. They were just like, whoa, that's too much change. Okay, one card is usually all you guys take from us. You can't take the entire top 3 cards that are played in the format.
In addition to one of the biggest rising powerful CEDH commanders in Nadu.
Right, but people don't want to just sit there and watch you...
Yeah.
Non-deterministically flicker through your whole deck. Yeah. That's why Nadu had to go.
Oh,
if it could have been a
Nadu absolutely had to go. No one's arguing that Nadu had to go, but shaking up by getting rid of the top rising commander in addition to 3 core format staples all at once was a massive change overnight.
Oh, for sure. Like, I get their sentiment of being, like, scared and wanting to keep things the same. But I think Ian, comedian MTG, who does a lot of CEDH content and Play to Win and all these other people have just basically taken it and been like, okay, this is great because it opens up other avenues that weren't available before. And now you look at the meta, it's kind of shaped up a little differently. And it will continue to change. That's one of the great things about CEDH is that there's so many discords of people just brewing on their favorite card, their favorite deck. They're just working on a way to make it like as good as it can possibly be. And with the elimination of Dockside, that gets rid of your fear of playing too many treasures. Not treasures, too many artifacts. Because before you were like, well, if I play a lot of artifacts, I'm literally just gassing up whoever is going to play the first Dockside. And it's like if you try to play Dockside on their Dockside, well, they'll just sack their treasure, and now you get nothing because it doesn't count your own. Jeweled Lotus really helped a lot of bigger decks get their commanders out even faster, or decks play their commander turn 1 sometimes. Like that was the appeal of playing like a 3-mana commander as long as it was all one color because Jeweled Lotus gets your commander. Mana Crypt. Again, I think it was just they were trying to get rid of a lot of the things that sped the format up. So, I think it was all warranted. I like where CEDH is now. I've been watching and consuming a lot more content. It's also made the entry into CEDH just like this much cheaper if you don't want a proxy, because you were having to get like a $200 Mana Crypt and a $100 something Jeweled Lotus, and a $90 Dockside if you were playing red, anything with red.
The crazy thing, those 3 cards are still pretty valuable. Like they've held a pretty decent amount of value. I mean, they've obviously lost a lot, but they're still expensive cards, quite frankly.
That's because people are holding out hope. They're like, look, if it ever gets unbanned, I'm not letting it go.
It's not getting unbanned. The last thing that we will talk about for the month of September is, of course, the Magic set, Duskmourn, House of Horror. We got some new mechanics with the Eerie mechanic, a kind of a Constellation-like mechanic, Impending, Manifest Dread, Survival, and the Room Enchantment archetype, subtype, as well as the return of Delirium, which is very nice. We had 4 commander decks with the Miracle Worker, Esper, Enchantments, and Miracles, Death Toll, the Golgari, Delirium deck, Endless Punishment, Rakdos, Group Slug, and Jump Scare, Simic, Landfall, and Manifest, as well as the return of the Arch Enemy game type for Commander, a subtype of Commander game. A lot of really good cards in this set. The Abhorrent Oculus, obviously, Kaito, Bane of Nightmares, Screaming Nemesis, also things like Razorkin Needlehead, very powerful cards. I think a lot of those Manifest Dread cards went really well if you were into the Disguise face down cards that we were talking about earlier in the year. Impending, Eerie gassing up your enchantment decks. And then Survival as well, wanting to tap your things down, enabling very, very powerful standard decks with the, what's the green beast? Kona. Yes. Kona being able to cheat out big, massive, powerful threats with the Survival stuff. So, very good set. Wyatt, big set of the year for you.
Huge set of the year for me. Love horror movies, so that whole set was just so good. So many great mechanics, so many great cards. I've been brewing the Winter Misanthropic Guide. My version, I dropped a budget version. This one that I'm building will not be budget because I love that card. And I love the deck direction that I'm going with it. So, but that's neither here nor there. So many good stuff, so many great commanders. If you loved horror movies, you love this set. That's pretty much where it is for me.
Sam.
This was such a cool set. Mechanically, it was a really great set. I think that a lot of the Delirium cards they brought back in were very good, improving on the Delirium deck mechanic. The rooms were a really cool new type of enchantment. We've been getting a lot of new enchantment types here recently, and I think rooms is one of the most fun of them. But as far as I think it was a 50% flavor win here. And why I say that is because 50% of the cards are like horror, like actual we're in a horror film or whatever, and it's scary, and you can feel the art direction being like, yeah, let's focus on that fear. And then the other half is like, hey, remember this 80s flick? Here's a cheerleader. She's wearing a cheerleader outfit. And it's like, I get it. I get that was a big thing in the 80s, and it makes sense. It doesn't make it feel good. Also, I believe they printed the word bestie on a card in the flavor text, so that's a little weird, but overall,
people don't like
I'm still a big
cheerleader.
fan. It's weird.
It's something.
It's a little weird.
Yeah. I mean, Duskmourn is objectively a good set. It's not my vibe at all. A lot of great cards in it. I really liked Arabella. I'm building a PDH deck around Arabella, the Abandoned Doll. A lot of great build-around cards, for sure. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about the month of September? All right.
Wake me up when September ends.
Well, wake up, because we're in October now. October gave us no new releases for D&D or Magic the Gathering, but we did get a little bit of interesting news developments. We had Wizards taking over run of the Commander format due to the outcry and the, quite frankly, abhorrent behavior of the Magic community directed at the former Rules Committee. In wake of the bans of Dockside Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, and Nadu Winged Wisdom. For the safety of the Commander Rules Committee, they gave over control of the format to Wizards of the Coast proper. The community should be ashamed of themselves, quite frankly, if they were the people that were okay with the treatment that they were getting, that the Rules Committee was getting. the language being used, the threats. No place in Magic or any other game, quite frankly.
No.
It's a fucking card game. It's not that important. People need to calm down.
Yeah. It's not an investment. It's not for you to take these cards and like try to make money off of them. If you're going to play the game, like that's all fine, but when it comes to threatening people and getting so just in your feelings that you'll go out of your way to make these threats and post them online with your whole chest, like you need to take a step back and evaluate like what's going on. Why are you that mad about it? Because I mean, at the end of the day, they're people. They love the game. They're not going to do anything that's going to hurt the game. You know, they were just trying to do what they thought was best for the game in its entirety. This entire game that's been going on for 30 plus years. You know, it was really disheartening to see so much vitriol coming from the Magic the Gathering community directed at those people. And absolutely. I know that Josh Lee Kwai and Olivia Goldberg-Higgs really did try to kind of ride that out, but it just got like way too much, and I think it was probably for the best that Wizards stepped in that way. It showed that they were at least looking out for the people that were running their biggest format for them for a while. So I really like that. And there was a new release in October. My daughter
New release.
You know,
New release to the typical Gemini family.
Exactly. Hot off the presses.
What is the sign for your daughter?
She is. What is she?
Would not be.
I know my son's a Capricorn because of he's stubborn like a goat.
I'm a Libra, and I was born October 16th.
That sounds right.
So a typical Libra added to the typical family.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
I do want to say there was a flavor fail as your child was not named Sam.
True.
Sydney starts with an S.
It's close, but
not quite.
People love a reference.
Yeah. Oh. So your next son is going to be named Connor Sam.
Yeah.
One. Yeah.
Oh, one hyphenated.
Hyphenated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
I was gonna go with just Con Air, like the Nicolas Cage movie, and then Samwise for their middle name. So
Con Air, Samwise, Gemini. We also got our first. We talked about this earlier in the podcast with the Secret Layers. We got our first look at some Marvel from Magic. We also had MagicCon Las Vegas, which was the real release of Mystery Boosters 2, which was originally just kind of tossed around at Gen Con, the first real release of Mystery Boosters 2. We also got the announcement that half of all sets going forward were going to be Universes Beyond. So starting in 2025, half of the sets will be Universes Beyond. We also got a roadmap for at least the first 2/3 of 2025 and the sets that we'll be releasing. We talk about the sets that are coming out. We'll talk about what we are excited for going forward at the end of this. But yeah, a little bit sad. And big note, all Universes Beyond sets will now be standard legal as well, which is a very big change. Ultimately, we're not going to know how much that's going to matter until we start getting these Universes Beyond sets, and if they shake up standard too much to kind of ruin the format, that will remain to be seen until we get to that point. But we're definitely skeptical, I think. The other big thing that came
destroy creatures with "I'm walking here" from the Spider-Man set. That's gonna be awesome.
Can't wait. The other thing, and this is more to do with the November release of Foundations, but we got the announcement of the rules change for combat damage assignment. It is no longer assigned. Damage is now no longer assigned until the damage step, so you can't reorder things. We've gone into this a lot before. Just kind of simplifying that, I think it helps kind of encourage attacking more, a little bit of a debuff to a defender if you're blocking with multiple creatures. It's a whole thing. Moving on to the month of November, Hasbro was sued for misrepresenting its inventory to its investors. This was filed on behalf of the West Palm Beach Firefighters Pension Fund. Just kind of, I mean, lying to investors, not a great thing. We'll see what comes of this. This is still in litigation. We don't really know the whole details on it, but this lawsuit was filed in the month of November. With November, though, we got the release of the last set of 2024 Magic Foundations, a smattering of mechanics from across Magic's history that can be used in various standard decks. It is almost entirely reprints. Some big hits being Doubling Season. We got Bloodthirsty Conqueror, Sire of Seven Deaths. It will remain standard legal for 5 years until 2029. It is separate from the now 3-year rotation that we have for standard. The next rotation set will be with Echoes of Eternity in August, and then there will not be another standard rotation until 2027, at which point it will be the 3-year rotation for standard. Foundations was a massive hit in both card quality, design, and a huge step for Wizards revitalizing the standard format, which hopefully they don't immediately blow the fuck up with the Universes Beyond additions to standard. Sam, what is your take on Foundations and the revitalization of the standard format?
Foundations, like you said, it's a lot of reprints, a lot of great reprints, but also a lot of new cards utilizing old mechanics, and it has really taken those mechanics and just cranked them just enough to make them good. There are so many times you would look at even a common from Theros where it's like, oh, the bestow cost for basically +1 and flying. I could cast this for one and a blue and give it, and it's a 1/1 with flying, or I can bestow it for 7 mana to give the creature +1 and flying. Where now it's like, okay, there are bestow creatures in Foundations that are worth casting, that are worth bestowing on. And that's just one example of many. Overall, I think that this set design is very good if we can continue it going forward. If every set is this kind of beginner-friendly with still being powerful enough to see play for a long time. My only issue with it is I scrubbed out of 2 drafts in a row on arenas, and I just need a good Foundations draft to actually make me happy. So
yeah, 3 out of 10, bad set. Yeah, if Foundations is the foundation of set design going forward, it's going to be a really good spot. Wyatt, what is your take on Foundations?
I think Foundations is great. There is a reason that it's already come out the gate being really well received and everything, is because I think they did design it with that idea of 5 years in mind. So they needed to make sure that everything that was coming out of it was solid, but not overpowered, good but not, game-shatteringly great. And I think they really knocked it out of the park with this. I don't think there's too many cards that are just complete write-offs. I love what Sam said about the bestow, because that has been something that's just never set right in my head. It's like, the creature is 2 mana, its bestow cost is 8. Why? Why would I do that? Why would I pay that?
Well, because when the enchanted creature dies, the bestowed enchantment doesn't go to the graveyard, it just becomes the creature.
Right, unless it gets exiled or countered, or
exactly.
Something else. The creature that you're targeting gets bounced, and now you've lost both.
Yeah, I think Foundations is fantastic as far as Magic sets go. The beginner friendly. The mechanics are simple. The mechanics that they revisited are simple, but they're good, solid. Like, you're going to encounter them all the time. very good. The set's fantastic.
Right.
Some would say it's the best set of the year. I think Bloomburrow is more fun than Foundations, but Foundations, as far as deck building and reprint value and just like core card quality, is just far and away one of the best of the year. Like the card power level might be a little bit less than Modern Horizons 3, but like I don't think by much either. Like Foundations is really good, really strong card quality. And I'm excited to actually try out Standard for the first time ever.
Yep.
I want to get... Sam and I have been saying that we want to be getting into some 60-card formats now, and I think that that's just a really, really good thing. The last thing to come out in the month of...
This isn't even taking the jump start into account, right?
Jumpstart's a great way to play Magic. There's a lot of powerful cards in the Jumpstart packs for Foundations, and I think it's the 2024 release for Jumpstart that's worth buying. But yeah, the last
Jumpstart
thing,
every 2 years.
Yes. I wouldn't mind it every year, frankly, but
If it were that good, yeah.
if that's the quality that we're getting, at least. The last thing
I think they got to come up with card designs and get them out there, and you know, they got to hire those people to do the anime drawings that everyone loves. You know,
they need to get the anime guys out there for sure.
yeah.
The last release to talk about in November is, of course, the Dungeon Master's Guide for the 2024 revision of D&D. Mainly, it was a fleshing out of the information available in the previous Dungeon Master's Guide, as well as organization for the book that makes it just easier to use. More of a useful tool to guide Dungeon Masters. Crazy concept, I know. As well as introduction to new rules and new systems, including the Bastion system for building forts and all of that kind of stuff. Really excited to get the monster manual, to get the core trio pillars of D&D going forward. But we'll move on to the month of December. I don't think there's too much to say here about the Dungeon Master's Guide. Not much to say in the month of December either, because we got Elon Musk tweeting that he would kind of want to buy Hasbro, but that's just a tweet, or an X, I guess. We got a confirmation of a new D&D in-house made video game, as well as a Commander video game, which I find interesting. And then the aforementioned 20 Ways to Win Secret Lair, and how they just completely made a bad deck and then fumbled the release of said deck. So I think, quite frankly, there's not much to say about the month of December. It's been pretty chill. It's the holiday season. They're just trying to sell product and move product that they already got. That is all for the review of 2024. Let's do a quick round robin, a little round the horn of what we're looking forward to in 2025. It could be Magic, it could be D&D, it could be vibes, it could be another child, Wyatt. Are you planning on having another child in 2025?
Nope. We are 2 and done.
2 and done. Wyatt, what do you look forward to in 2025?
What I look forward to in 2025, I look forward to continuing to brew budget decks. I look forward to the Commander decks that we're going to continue to get with every set, because every now and then, you know, they just incidentally drop some heat in there that I am just drawn to. Aether Drift is looking really solid. I am a vehicle enjoyer, so that could be something really cool to see. As far as some of the other stuff, Innistrad is probably going to perform really well. I love Innistrad. It's a great plane, gothic horror. It's as close to a horror movie as you can get. You know, lots of stuff to look forward to with Magic the Gathering. In Dungeons & Dragons, I am also very excited and hope that in 2025 I get to play some Dungeons & Dragons.
Very fair. Very fair. Sam, what's your take on 2025?
2025, I am very interested to see what we're going to get from the D&D side of things. Obviously, right now we know that the Monster Manual will be released on February 18th, but after that, we have no information. We don't know. We've had some rumors of there might be a dragon book, there might be a this, there might be a that, but we have nothing official. So I'm very interested to see what they plan on doing with this new system, this new version of the system that they've come out with. As far as Magic the Gathering goes, we have, I'm just going to do a quick rundown of all the dates. For Innistrad Remastered will come out January 24th, Acer Drift on February 14th, Tarkir Dragonstorm on April 11th, Final Fantasy on June 13th, Edge of Eternities on August 1st, which will be the standard rotation, and then Spider-Man, to be announced, and an unannounced Universes Beyond, to be announced, will be coming out.
An announced, unannounced Universes Beyond.
Yeah. I'm actually very excited to see what the Spider-Man Universes Beyond is going to be like. Mm-hmm. I think that we had so many ideas of what, like, like we discussed briefly when we first kind of got announcement of the fact that they were going to do multiple tentpole sets. We're like, I bet this is what Captain America is going to be. And guess what? I hit that one on the head. You can go back and find that podcast episode where we said, I said it. It clocked it, exactly. So I'm excited to be right more. That'll be pretty cool. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see all of these sets, honestly, if they continue to do solid set and card design like they did for Foundations. Honestly, like we saw in Bloomburrow and Duskmourn. I'll be very excited to see all of these. And just in general, I hope that Wizards of the Coast gets to kind of do what they want without having to worry about all of the controversies that they had to worry about in the 2 years that Cynthia Williams was president. Hopefully, Mr. John Haidt can take the company in a good direction.
Higher.
That's just a hope. Higher. We can take it to higher heights.
Yeah. We could hire Heights to take the company to higher heights.
There you go.
Genius. Yeah, I hope I didn't give anyone a brain aneurysm there. That would have been awkward. 2025. I'm very excited for what the first 2024 D&D rules campaign book is going to look like. I want to see how they format that. I want to see how they go about writing a story and telling a story with the new systems, with their new philosophy for designing campaigns. As far as Magic the Gathering goes, I'm excited to see what the end of 2025 is going to have in terms of a non-Universes Beyond property, because from August until December, we have absolutely nothing in terms of non-Universes Beyond. That said, I think them deciding to go with Universes Beyond being legal and standard is going to indicate to us that Universes Beyond cards are going to be less flashy and weird and more just kind of flavorful for what Magic design is. And that's kind of what I hope going forward. I hope that we get this Final Fantasy Universes Beyond and it's like flavor wins through and through, and we're not getting anything like crazy mechanically. I want just like solid card design where, maybe they have an ability and then you give the ability like a cute little name, and it's just neat and fun. Like how Captain America, he has his two abilities of catch and throw, and it's thematic, and they don't need to be named. They could just have the abilities listed out, but it's fun, Like how in Lord of the Rings, Shadowfax, all horses have haste, and then it had the reminder text for haste, because Shadowfax shows us the meaning of haste, Just fun little shit like that. We don't need anything crazy. We don't need to be reinventing the wheel with these Universes Beyonds. Just give us something fun and flavorful that's not crazy outlandish. We don't need a One Ring again. We don't need to have another One Ring that just takes over Modern and is like super powerful in Commander. We don't need that, okay? We just need like solid cards. That's what I hope for and look forward to in 2025. I also want Final Fantasy to come out, and I want to have Clive Rossfield be fucking cool and build a deck around him, because Final Fantasy 16 is badass and I love it. I also
Can't wait for
hope
Spider-Man to wield the Buster Sword.
I want Captain America to grab Cloud Strife's Buster Sword and yuck it at someone. You know,
Chuck it at the 11th Doctor.
I hope prediction. I have a prediction for you. I predict that in the Final Fantasy Universes Beyond set, either printed in the set or as like a little bonus sheet action, maybe exclusive to collector boosters, mayhaps even in a secret lair release associated with the Final Fantasy set, we're going to get Kingdom Hearts characters because of the tie between Disney and Kingdom Hearts. Will that actually happen? Almost certainly not, because Kingdom Hearts is owned by Disney, and Disney has Lorcana, and they would sooner be Lorcana cards than they would be Magic the Gathering cards. But hey, a fan can dream. A fan can dream.
Shoot your shot.
Kobe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kobe. You have to be somber with Kobe now. But that is all the time we have for this, the Lord's 83rd episode of the Duels and Mana Dorks podcast. A little bit different than the regular episodes of the Duels and Mana Dorks podcast. But we'll be getting back to the regular format in the new year. Happy New Year's to you all. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to our wonderful patron, Brandon Vole. Brandon, thank you so much for everything that you've done for us in 2024. And we hope you stick around in 2025. Brandon's the man. Wyatt, we need to get you in a Commander game. I think the three of us and Brandon would be a fun little game. Just to shout out. Just a thought. I'm sure he'll send me a message on Patreon about that now. I can't wait. I'm very excited. But thank you all so much for.
I got a lot of spice sitting around the desk. I've just been waiting to break it out on somebody. So, I got a pre-con, guys. We can play pre-con games.
That's fun. I don't have one. I've torn all mine apart and made horrifying abominations against God and man. So I am thankful for all of you in 2024. We hope you have a wonderful year. We hope 2025 is just as fun. Wyatt, I hope we get to have you on the show regularly and frequently. You're a joy.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Thank you for joining us this episode and this year. We love you very much. And as always,
Peace.
Peace and love.